Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video, today was one of those days, those days you just kind of don't want to wake up, but if you just get up and start your day, it's all going to pay off. Well, that's exactly what I have here today. I'm out here at Bushcraft Wonderland, and this is about as beautiful as it can get. A gorgeous winter day. It's cold, but it is just so nice. Everything's frozen, the perfect amount of snow. Bushcraft Wonderland, awesome. And just the surroundings. These little light flakes just falling down and really setting the scene for this video. Today I'm here to announce this collaboration between Outer Limitless Designs and Kombou, manufactured by Bestech knives. This fixed blade here, this is the Horizon. This is again a combination effort between myself as the designer of the actual blade shape and general ergonomics, and Kombou, who's put his touch and flair into this so that we can combine across the world to create this really cool offering from Bestech. Now at this point, this is a prototype design. I'm going to test this out to see how it performs and how I like it. Now this particular knife here is not the finished materials. It's just a prototype to get a sense for the ergonomics, the feel, and the general blade geometry to make sure this will perform. So I'm out here today and I'm actually going to rely on this knife. I have to get myself a little bit of a fire going. I'm not going to get a rager, but just enough to cook some food. I have some coffee. I have some good breakfast food. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten anything yet, and most importantly, I haven't had my coffee. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now again, this is called the Horizon, and I named it for a very specific reason. I actually designed this literally right away when I started working with Bestech as their US service representative. And the name Horizon, well, it was a new horizon. This is actually a little beyond what Bestech has done at this point in the fixed blade realm. At this point, they only have two models in their fixed blade lineup. They have the Heidi Blacksmith, which is a very small EDC knife, and then they also have the Hedron, which is more of a 4-inch like EDC bushcraft style knife. So the Horizon really punching beyond that to get more of that sort of woodscraft, wilderness, or general survival blade. Now I'm not going to run through the specifications just yet. I'm going to do all the field work. Then we're going to go back to the studio and I'm going to show you this in detail, give you all the specs, and talk about some of the upcoming steps that I hope to go through with Bestech. So at this point, it's time to get that fire started. Let's use this Horizon to get all of my woods processing done. It's going to be kind of hard coming across the right fire making supplies today, but we'll hope for the best. You can see here, I have to baton down, get to some of this dry wood. That's always going to be a prerequisite for me in a survival knife. So having a good stout tip, that's going to be critical. And then leveraging a saber grind, that's going to definitely play into the ability to split. Now I'm going to crack this down as far as I can to make really small pieces. I have a tiny little stove, and so this has to be pretty thin altogether. The knife is tracking beautifully right down the wood, so right away, I'm very happy with that, and it seems to be splitting pretty well. This is one of those days I wish I remembered to bring myself a little piece of fat wood, but we'll make it work. I have faith. Now here you'll see, I'm basically going to establish the crack. And you can see there, doing a pretty nice job establishing and wedging through the wood. Fairly easy for really not too terribly large of a knife. Now, I did design this in a couple of different sizes. I ultimately scaled this down from what it originally was. This was intended on being about an inch longer in overall blade length with a larger handle, but I wanted something that was going to be, I don't know, maybe a little more suited to the general masses and capable of being carried on your belt comfortably. But doing just a wonderful job splitting. I have to say right away, I am very happy that this is splitting so easily. Knot right there. You can see, good hard knot. That knife just bound in there, and being frozen like this, we'll see how it holds up. Now again, this is not the final steel. This is simply D2 at this point, and G10 handle scales. Where will this end up? I'm not too sure. I was kind of hoping for M390, but we'll decide what lineup Bestech wants to put this in and what types of materials they're willing to use. Pounding through that knot just to test the edge, and that blew right through it, so no problem. Every little piece of dry wood is critical on a day like today where everything is just frozen and wet. So I gotta take my time and really process all of this down. The more time I spend on processing, the more likely I am to actually get a fire. So it's worth the time up front, not to waste my supplies once I start lighting it and struggling. If I struggle and can't get it lit, and then I burn all my tinder and kindling, well, that doesn't do me any good. So better to take my time and process this down up front. So now let's do a little bit of stabbing. Another way to split the wood down is to stab down through it. Looking here for positive lockup. This was designed with a nice guard to really allow your fingers to index. So as you see here, your pinky locking, and then you end up with this sort of rear grip with a little bit of a choil there, and then you can get your thumb up over the top of the back. It has been rounded intentionally. Now, I will say this handle is just a touch long intentionally for people with larger hands. You'll notice that on a lot of my designs, they have slightly longer handles for balance, so that you end up with a neutrally balanced knife right in that choil area, but also so that if you have larger hands, you can get back comfortably. The other thing it does is it aids in a little bit of chopping power. So even though this is a smaller knife, you can do a little bit of chopping, light limbing, and tasks like that. But unfortunately what that does, it makes the span a little bit longer for your thumb over the top of the knife, but you can still do it if you have large size hands. But back to the splitting, well, stabbing, no problem. This should be a good stout tip capable of doing these splitting tasks with stabbing motion. And you'll notice if you look here, the way the tip has been flared out just a little bit, it gives you a little bit of that sort of diamond shape, which is cool. It aids in a little bit of strength in the tip just for these stabbing tasks, and you'll see cracking down and through the wood, no problem. To me, these stabbing tasks are another prerequisite for a wilderness survival knife that you plan on using for firecraft. And for me personally, my wilderness knives are like almost 90% designed for specifically firecraft. I love making fires. Fires are like, it's life. Fire is literally life. If you don't have a fire in a dire situation, it's the difference between staying warm, a little bit of safety and security, the ability to potentially boil water. In a lot of ways, fire is probably one of the most critical survival elements, so having a knife capable of processing down the wood and getting the fire started is just a key to me. Now, some of these are definitely too long, so using a cross batoning technique, that's going to help chop these down to size. I don't need a ton of them that are short, but I definitely need some. So, not going too tough here. Doing a nice job, just gliding right down through the wood. You'll see just a nice bite. This edge geometry is honestly just about perfect. I think we nailed it, and Bestech did a fantastic job with the manufacturing. Alright, so now to start carving down some fine feathers. This is going to be key. These are those nice little slivers that you hope to get the fire started with, these sort of nice chunks. So I'm going to do two things. You can see here just some sort of mid-sized pieces. So I'm going to carve these down. This is going to really help me get this started, especially in the wet. So trying to keep these out of the snow as much as possible. That's going to be key. You can see here, leveraging this finger choil, getting in there. Just a little bit of a hot spot there. Not too bad, but that is something that I'm going to actually have to work with Bestech a little bit just to kind of soften that out. But the edge, again, this edge is literally perfect. The carving capability of this knife is fantastic. I love the way this feels. The handle geometry is just about perfect. So far, I do have to say, I am quite happy with the performance. This is actually making very quick and easy work of this, which is just awesome, especially in adverse conditions. You just don't have time to be messing around and playing with things, and especially when it's cold like this, you only have so much time to work with your hands, especially without the gloves. Now, I could probably put the gloves on, but I'm really trying to get a good feel for this knife out here in the field. All right, so there's some of the bigger pieces. Let's transition down to some finer feathers. This here will be more of a true feather stick. So as I just get that slightest edge here, working that down, look how precise this edge is. Actually, it does want to just bite deep, but lightening up here, look at this refined edge. I am blown away at how nicely Bestech manufactured this. The edge is ridiculous. Look at these paper thin little curls. I am very happy with this. Okay, so that should about do it, just to get me some fine feathers to start here. So there are some thin little curly cues in there. That's going to definitely help me. Now I don't expect this will scrape a ferro rod, nor was the spine sharpened, but I think on the final version I may be interested in seeing. This does have that little sort of, it's not rounded off, but it's like chamfered on the top for some style. But unfortunately, that will limit its ability to actually strike the ferro rod. So could that be sharpened up right there? Probably, and I bet you it would do a pretty nice job. It looks like the actual tip might be able to do that, so let's see if we can get the ferro rod to actually start this fire. That might be cool. Now, the last sort of critical piece here would be if I can actually scrape fuzz. This isn't really going to do it. It's far too rounded out. But with the tip, can I get a little bit of fuzz? If not, you kind of got to like do it with the blade, which is not the best, and it will dull the blade a little bit. But out here, right now, I kind of don't have a choice. So that's the key with having that sharpened spine. But this is going to do it. All right. So now, to get all my supplies in order here, I know this is cheating a little bit, but I do have this nice little tinder here, which I think is going to be critical. I kind of just need to get this fire started, and I don't have a ton of time to waste. So this is sort of like one shot chance here to get this right. So I just have to prepare all my supplies and be ready to jump on this as soon as this is lit, if I think I'm going to get a fire that's capable of sustaining, and especially in these adverse conditions. So as I prepare my bundle here, we'll get ready to fire this thing up. All right, let's hope for the best here. Oh, it went. Right. So you can see with all these little curls, I'm just going to sit here and feed this for a while with this real thin baby little stuff. And if I need to, just carve off some more. In fact, I'm probably best to just sort of stay on top of that and just keep carving this stuff down nice and easy, and just be ready to feed this fire just a little bit more of these dainty curls, and over time this will get nice and hot. Little ember bed down in the bottom of this little stove, and once it gets to that point, I should be able to cook. So we'll see how this goes, but that was a nice start. This horizon is freaking awesome. Now, just for the sake of carving, if I was to carve this into a baton, let's see how this feels. Nice. Oh, solid bite. I mean, this is going to be my new favorite knife. I love this knife. This thing is awesome. The edge geometry, just fantastic. Gonna just hog this wood out. Throw it right at the lens here. Let's see. Oop. And even with it being frozen like it is, I mean, just feeling really good. And when I can get control of the edge, I can really sort of pinpoint where I throw these shavings right at the lens. Coming at you. Ooh, coming at you. Oh. Ooh. So, very precise on the edge. You can see here, just literally lasering through this wood. No problem. And then I can sort of lighten up. Now, I am getting a little bit of an impression up here, and I wasn't going to be surprised. It is a little bit of a hot spot, So just softening up some of these edges. This is where it strikes the balance between me as a designer and Kombou. The two of us kind of working together, so we're just going to have to figure out how to sort of make the lines all work, but then get that ergonomic comfort. I definitely have a little bit of a concern up on the top of the knife here for long-term use, and some heavier carving up on that finger choil back. Not a problem. It's not going to be as effective. I don't have quite the same leverage, but it feels good. But for this, getting up on here, the intended purpose up on that choil, definitely need to soften this up a bit, but not a huge deal. Just want to nail the design because this knife is going to be sweet. Awesome. I needed my coffee today, but I thought it'd be worth waiting to get it out here, and it definitely is. This edge seems to be still just about perfect. I mean, for a fairly thin edge, and we'll measure it back in the studio, but I don't see no chips, no rolls, no notable damage. That blade coating, still about perfect. So I'm absolutely pumped about the performance of this knife. Is there some minor design changes? Yes, I would say just to get rid of a couple of little hot spots in the front around the ricasso and choil area, but other than that, just awesome. All right, so coffee, check. At this point, I'm gonna make myself a little bit of lunch. It's getting to be about lunchtime, even though I brought pretty much breakfast foods, but that's all good. So, not the cleanest surface, but I'm in the bush, I don't care. So, I'm just gonna do just a little bit of prep here, just to cut some of these veggies down. Gonna make myself a little sort of scrambled eggs with some peppers and some ham, and I think this will be pretty good for today. So just leveraging this for some basic cutting and food prep tasks. You can see just super fine and refined, just no problem right down and through these peppers. These have been awesome in the kitchen. I've been using these quite a bit for food prep, and the edge geometry really lends itself very well to that. Now, of course, I'm going to have to get my fire going again. Not a huge deal. I'm pretty much set up to deal with it, but just getting all my supplies kind of ready here. We'll get that fire started. On a day like this, nice and cold, it's actually awesome to have a good warm meal. So I've earned this. There's something about that taste coming off the fire. Nice seasoned pan. Just that fire taste sort of on top of it all. Well earned, delicious, and a great way to recharge.